Good morning and welcome to the fourth day of our Swoon Sadie Sew Along. Today we'll be attaching the pocket, creating and attaching the pockets. We'll be doing the strap connectors and we'll be assembling the back, the lining and the main of the bag. So let's get started. We're gonna start with the pockets. First we're gonna create the outside pocket. So for that you need your outside pocket piece, the one that had the accent, if you've added them. These are optional, so if you didn't add them, it's the one with no snap. Then you need the lining of the pocket, which is the one that has the female snap. I'm going to place them right sides together and sew at the top with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Let me check my seam allowance because I feel like my marking was off. Before. Okay, 1/2 inch. I'm placing my needle down and just using my my Sew Sweetness guide, seam guide, to put my magnet here. See, I have a little magnet that I got from Joanne, and I align it with the needle down, so now I know this is 1/2 inch. I could put like a washi tape or stuff like that, but I don't know. I figured the magnet is easier to move around if I need different measurements. Alright, so now I have my guide correctly for 1/2 inch. I love my little tool because it also has like a 4 inch, so it's like a mini ruler. Super cute. Alright, flip them right sides together and top stitch your seam allowance down along the edge. And this is the outside pocket on the back. This one has a magnetic strap, but if you, like I said before, if you don't have magnetic straps and you're not putting them, it's really not going to be a big deal. Like my apple white bag that I have made before doesn't have a snap, and I don't feel like it's missing it, honestly. Alright, so now I'm taking the back, which is the one we worked on yesterday, the one with the flap that has the male snap there, and you can snap them in place. And I'm going to sew around the pocket, the edge, the bottom and the top of the pocket. You can baste them in place. Alright, so the outside pocket is now completed. Set this aside for now. We're going to work on the inside pocket, which is basically a repeat of the steps we just did. So this is the back with the snap. Man, these snaps are strong. So definitely, I hope you put Decovil heavy or Peltex or something to hold those snaps in place. Okay, let's set the back aside for now and we'll work on the inside pocket here. The 2 pieces left from the pocket, same thing, right sides together at the top. Flip and top stitch. My lining is the same as my main print, so for me it doesn't really matter. If your lining and the main print are different, make sure you top stitch on the main part, especially if you do not match the bobbin thread. Alright, so now you have an option if you want to put like a middle seam in this, well, after we attach it, or you leave it like a big pocket, that's up to you. So now let's go ahead and take the one of the linings. So you have two lining pieces, right? You're gonna take one of the linings and you're going to attach the pocket to it, just like we did the outside one. So a line along the raw edge of the pocket, a raw edge of the fabric, and sew around it, basting it in place. So now is what I was mentioning before. You have an option to leave it like a big pocket on the inside, or if you like smaller pockets, you can decide how big you want your smaller pockets to be. So you can go wild here. You want two pockets that are the same size, just find the center and sew a stitch right here. You want one bigger pocket and one little one. You want one for pencils, you can put like pens, you can put two stitches like 1 inch apart, and you have a pen, then a little one. You can create your pocket with this however you want, or whatever, you know, your needs. Like, I know I need a pocket for my glasses, so I'm gonna do a smaller one that will fit my glasses and a bigger one. So my smaller one will be like 4 inches on one side. So around here I will do a straight stitch. You can obviously draw a straight line with a water-soluble pen. I don't know where mine is. Or put a crease. So I'm gonna do one straight stitch because I need a pocket for my glasses and a bigger one. But again, this is up to you, whatever you want. I don't think the big pocket is super practical. But again, if you know you always carry a notebook that you want in a separate pocket, you can leave it as a big one. Alright, so here I have my pockets like so. It's up to you. So this is done. So I have my two lining pieces. I have my front, my back, and now I want to work on the lining for the sides. So put your two lining pieces, these right sides together, and sew them with a 1/2 inch seam allowance along the longer edge, along this side. You can obviously top stitch this down if you want to make it sit nicer. This again is the lining, it's going to be inside of the bag. Okay, set that aside for now, and let's work on the connector. you will need two connectors out of this piece that are 1 inch in width. So I'm going to apply a strip of quilter tape on both of the long edges. So we can create there you go. All right, so fold 1/2 inch on both sides. So basically you're folding them so they meet in the center. This is the 4-inch strip, which means when they met in the center, if you fold them 1/2 inch, the strip that's left over is 1 inch. All right, so this is how it looks like on the wrong side. And this is how it looks like on the right side. So I'm going to fold it in half and cut it to create my 2 pieces. And if I find my scissors. There. Oh, I could have done a nicer cut. There you go. So now you have 2 of them, and they stick together with the soluble stabilizer. Take your D-rings or rectangle rings. So if you remember, we talked about this in the first video. If you don't do an adjustable crossbody strap, you do just the standard shoulder strap included in the pattern, you'll be using rectangle rings. I'm doing an adjustable shoulder strap with clasps, so I'm doing D-rings. Just have your D-ring inside this, and now we're going to go ahead and top stitch, or you can always use rivets for this. I might add rivets later on, but I don't have any, I don't think I have any rivets that are rainbow color. I have some Mickey ones, but I think I want just standard rivets. I'll have to check my stash. If not, I believe Melissa from Wizard Stitchery is sending me some. So once I get those in the mail, I'll add those to the bag. Because you can add rivets at any given time, basically, if they're on the outside straps. Because I definitely want rainbow rivets if I do them. If not, I'll prefer not to have any than have a different metal finish. Alright, so this is one, and we're going to do the same thing for the other one. And the reason I don't stitch this first and then fold it is so I have one single stitch. If you can see here. Come on, focus. There you go. Out of my hand. Alright, so I don't know how well you can see it, but the stitching is only one, there you go, one stitch. If I've done it before, like first I do the stitching and then I do it, if I don't do it right on top, it will look less clean. So that's why I like to use my Wonder Tape to hold it in place and then do just the one stitch. again, if you have rivets and that you're going to add, you probably don't need all the side stitches. You can just do the rivets and one stitch here and you're done. You're good to go. It doesn't need more than that. But while I wait for my rivets, I don't mind doing this. Alright, so your connectors are done. Let's add the connector to this. So we're going to add them right in the center. Find the center of your side panel and the center of the connector. Match them. And let's see. I just want to make sure that it is centered. Okay, good. So sew them in place, and I like to sew them a few times, not just baste them, because these connectors will hold on to all the heavy stuff you put in your bag. So you want to make sure they're secure in there. Okay, and repeat the same thing on the other end. Look how pretty! Oh my god, look how pretty. This rainbow with this rainbow. Ah, and the cork. Oh man, this is so pretty. Have you started a drinking game yet? Every time Alex says this is so pretty, grab a shot. Because I feel like I've said it so much. Alrighty. Okay, so these are the first two steps of the day. The last step of the day will be to start assembling the lining and the main of the fabric. So let's start by marking the bottom center. And I'm gonna put a little snip here to mark the center. And then a little snip here. Alright, and then we're gonna take the main of the fabric, is the one that has the accent pieces, and again mark the bottom center and put a little snip, then the bottom center. Okay, so take your, if your fabric is directional in the peekaboo, make sure that it will show as you wanted it to show. So this is like this. So I need it like so. Or to the front. Make sure that your fabric shows the way you wanted it to. Let's see, if I do my bag like this, this will be the front, and I want my peekaboo to be like this. Okay, so I'm going to match the snip here with the snip on the front and put a pin in place, and then the sides, one side here and then the other side here, and then add a couple of pins throughout, and this will have a 1/2 inch seam allowance when we sew it down. So we're going to be basically doing this step 2, 4, 8 times between the main and the lining. So I'm not going to do it all on camera because it's going to be very repetitive. Now it's all laying flat. You want to make sure there's no puckers. Like here, I don't like this pucker. I need it out of my way. You want to make sure everything lies nice and flat. Okay, much better now. If you need to put 50 pins, put 50 pins. Whatever you need to do to feel that it's holding it right in place. Okay, and go ahead and sew around your pins with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. You can follow the edge of your fleece because that had the seam allowance removed. Remember? And make sure you don't do any puckers in at the corners because those are the places where you can easily get puckers. No puckers here, no puckers here. Okay, we're looking good on this side. I do think I want to do one more round of stitching. I feel like I had the stitching too wide. I like my stitch length to be about 2.5. No more than that. And I feel like this was 3. So I'm stitching right on top. I love this bag so much. I want to make sure that it holds with all the weight I know I'm going to put in it. Because I'll take it to the park as soon as they open. Alright, now I'm happier. So we're going to repeat the same thing on the other side, which is the back of the panel. Again, match the snip you did to the snip here. And this. Keep the flap away and the D-ring or rectangle ring so you don't mess up your needle. And you'll be repeating these exact same steps after you finish this one with the lining. But with the lining, the only difference that you will have to leave a 6-7 inch opening to birth your bag tomorrow. On one of the sides. But other than that, the steps will be exactly the same. There we go. Everything is nice and flat. No puckering. Make sure the flap is away. You don't want to catch the flap in the seam allowance here. So like I said, repeat the same steps on the lining, making sure that you leave an opening on one of the sides. You can pick which side. Leave an opening, and that will be your last step of the day. Let me double check that there's no puckers. Nope, but there is a little hole here. It's to the left. This is the time to fix any issues you may see before you stitch the bag together. Oh, this is so pretty! OMG. I'm just checking for any issues before I start working on the lining. Because once you turn it inside out like this, you can see if you have any skipped anything or caught anything in the stitch that was not supposed to be there. This is why I'm turning it one time. Oh, looks like everything is looking good. Oh, so cute. Alright, so let's go ahead and work on the lining. Alright, so we've sewn the front and the back to the sides of the main part. Then I went ahead and did one of the lining pieces. And we'll do the last one together. Again, find the center of your lining. This is the one with the pocket. And match that to the seam, because your lining has a seam in the middle, the bottom and the sides. So we don't need a snip there, we can just match those. And here is where we're going to have to leave an opening. So I'm gonna leave an opening on the side with the pocket. It might be a little easier if you leave the opening on the side without the pocket, but I've already sewn that one, so I'll do it here. See, I just left this as a reminder to leave an opening for us to birth the bag tomorrow. And this is the last step of the day. Tomorrow we'll be putting the bag together, finishing the assembly and creating the strap, and I'll show you how I create my crossbody adjustable strap. Alright, so I'll start sewing from this end. Again, 1/2 inch seam allowance, or even a smidge more for the lining to lay nice and flat. Nice and tight inside the bag. So about 5/8 of an inch for the lining would be encouraged. Make sure there's no puckers, and once I've made it to the straight edge, I'm gonna back stitch and then leave an opening and finish the top here. Alright, so in order to avoid a lot of puckering in the seam allowances, what I would recommend is to cut around the seam allowances for both the main and the lining to 1/4 of an inch. Here where you have the opening, this is what I would do. I would cut like this on either side, but leave this part as it is right now, because it's going to be easier to sew it together when we stitch the opening, if it's like a bigger seam allowance. See, this is how I cut it. I left the opening a little bigger. Okay, so snip all the seam allowances, cut them all the way to 1/4 of an inch, then post a picture of your 2 back pieces in the day 4 comments of the Sew Along album in the Backstitch Backroom group, and I'll see you back here tomorrow when we'll be doing the strap and putting the back together during our last day. Talk to you soon. Bye!